So when it comes to secondary exercises, should you be prioritizing barbells or dumbbells? This is a question that gets brought up quite frequently from individuals who are curious as to which is going to yield the most progress over time, considering both their physique as well as their physical performance. Now, my coaching preference is to prioritize barbell work for a very specific reason that I'll explain in a brief moment. But that doesn't mean I don't incorporate dumbbell work at all. In fact, I incorporate quite a bit of it, both in my own training as well as all of the clients that I happen to coach. But I'm very strategic as to how I incorporate it. For example, dumbbell work tends to prioritize larger muscle groups such as the chest, back, and legs as primary. Rarely do I prioritize dumbbell work when it comes to smaller muscle groups. Again, there are no absolutes, so there's definitely going to be exercises showing up like dumbbell curls, but I'm much more likely to put a barbell curl variation in its place for the following reason. One of the greatest benefits of barbell training is the ability to micro-load the barbell on any exercise. And this is often overlooked as most people don't even micro-load their barbells at all. Therefore, they wouldn't even consider it to be beneficial because they don't do it. So hear me out. These are fractional plates. They're a tool that I use quite often in training. The greens are half pound, the white's a quarter, the red's 1, and the blue's 3/4, respectively. So 2 blues would work out to 1.5 pounds. This means that I can essentially create any interval less than 5 pounds that I might desire on the barbell, which, when you consider that the smallest plates readily available at most gyms are 2.5 per side, you can quickly see how this becomes a very unique tool, allowing you to bridge the gap on 5-pound progressions. So, why is that important? Well, not all exercises you do involve large muscle groups like a squat or a deadlift, where a 5-pound progression might be reasonable. Some exercises, considering a barbell curl, a skull crusher with an easy bar, and many more, target very small muscle groups or much smaller muscle groups in a very limited range of motion that applies a lot of stress to said muscle groups. And to jump 5 pounds on an exercise where you might not be that strong is considerable. So, for example, if you could do a barbell curl with the empty bar for a set of 15, and that was the most you could possibly do, it might be unreasonable to assume somewhere around a 12% increase by adding 5 pounds to the bar. But by putting a small white plate on each end, now the bar weighs 45.5 pounds. That's a much more manageable progression and likely something that you'll excel with. That application of stress will be very manageable by the body, which means that you'll be able to recover from it, which will then lead to an adaptation, which is the desired outcome. You will become stronger in that particular range of motion and on that specific exercise, which will then contribute to the foundation that is required for you to become stronger on whatever exercises you might be prioritizing as your primary lifts. So quite often, when considering secondary exercises, the smaller the muscle group, the more likely I am to attempt to utilize a barbell variation. And the reason why is because not only can I increase the load incrementally, volume considerations can be made in the same fashion. Let's consider for a moment an exercise like a dumbbell curl. Let's say that you could do 15 pounds in each hand for a set of 15. To jump to the 20s, which are most often the next set of dumbbells on the rack, would be very unrealistic. In fact, that would be a 33% increase on the current weight that you're doing per arm. And this is often why dumbbells can be limiting when considering progressions on smaller muscle groups. Dumbbells are often safe for larger muscle groups. Consider pressing and rowing variations as primary. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you won't see a set of dumbbell hammer curls mixed in here and there, but it does mean that the barbells will take priority more often than not. It's a coaching preference, and that's the rationale behind it. Hopefully, it's something you consider moving forward with your own progressions in your own training or potentially your own coaching as a useful tool to have in your back pocket when plateaus inevitably rear their ugly heads.